We're going. We're back. We're back. It's another week. Another week of Stand Up Explained. I am Brant Tobler.
I'm Andrew Slater.
And we, first of all, we're happy to have you. Once again, thank you to everybody who has subscribed, rated, reviewed. We're getting the reviews up there. We're close to 50. So if you haven't done it, please hop on there and give us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to the show. Other than that, I wish we had shows to plug, but we don't.
Still not.
So let's just explain some more. What's up?
I want some extra credit here because I'm playing hurt today. I cut myself when I was
what
chopping
happened?
celery. I was chopping celery. I almost sliced my damn thumb off. So that happened just before the podcast. I'm playing hurt, fighting through. So that deserves at least one or two positive reviews.
Yeah. So Andrew damn near cut his thumb off. He should probably be at the hospital, but instead he is sitting
much safer here.
explaining stand-up. Well, yeah, that's probably true. You're actually not a hero for going to the going. You saved your wife and your your daughter on the way, which we talked about last one. But anyway, that's not what we're here. We're not here to talk about Andrew's thumbs. That's a different podcast that we do other times. Today we're here to answer the age-old question: should I move to Los Angeles, Hollywood, big city of dreams?
That's probably the number one question. Now that I live in Portland, having lived in LA for a long time, that's probably the number one question I get here from comics. And I assume it's the same for you in Denver.
It's the same here in Denver. And a lot of Denver comics have moved to LA, which I would have told them no. Well, we might as well start with that. Well, I mean,
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. You definitely should move to LA. But I'll tell you, I guess we'll just start with we can just start with our own experiences because we both lived in LA for almost a decade each. And the thing was, when I was asking people if I should move to LA, they would tell me no. And I would be like, oh, okay, well, it's not good for you, but I'm way better than you. It'll be good for me. And now I see the same thing happening. Comics say, hey, should I move to LA? And I go, no, you shouldn't. This is why you shouldn't. But I can see in their head, they're like, oh, okay, that stuff that was hard happened to you, but that's not going to happen to me.
Right.
And I'll give you this. And I just want to say, I don't even know what kind of order we're going in, but I'll tell you the craziest part of LA is LA reminds me of gambling. The gambling gods are like the LA gods. Whereas when you gamble, you usually win like your first bet and then it's all downhill. And for me, and I think that's the same for you, and I think that's kind of the LA thing. When you get to LA, you're the new kid in town for that week. So you hopefully know people. You get to do all the hot shows that week, and you're really feeling it. And then it's back to reality because you're not going to believe this, but the next week, more new people are coming, and you're no longer the new kid.
Yeah, I actually didn't have. I don't know why. I moved to LA with such a lack of any sort of plan. The real reason why I moved is I was so young too. I was like, I was probably 20. I went to Boston at 22 or 23, came back like 24. So I was like 24, 25 years old when I moved to LA. And I only moved because my friends moved, the people I started with in Seattle, they're like, hey, we're down here now. So I was like, all right, I guess that's where I just figured that's where you went. I didn't know, I wasn't really asking that many people's advice. And then when I got down there were no hot shows for me to hop on. I was just started doing like open mics and stuff. And so I didn't even have that first, first bet is what I'm saying. Yeah. I was doing the horrible LA open mics and just gradually built up from there. But like I guess where I can start is the thing I wish I could like go back and tell myself is like, it's fine to move to LA. Obviously, a lot of people move to LA and they have a ton of success, and your ceiling is probably higher there than it is, staying in Denver, Portland, or Austin or wherever. But I think what I would tell myself is that have a reason why you're moving. Like, don't just move because you're like, okay, it's time to make it. I'm funny enough. I'm going to go make it. Like, have like, okay, wait, I have this web series, right? And I don't know where else to take it. I would like to be, I'd like to produce it with a higher quality and whatever. Okay, I'm going to take it down to LA. Or I have this, I've been writing a lot of scripts. I've been writing a lot of spec scripts for sitcoms, and I want to be somewhere where I'm around other writers and I can get pitched and get staffed on a show or something. Like, it helps to have a clear goal, and you
Yeah.
can be working towards that before you move there. You have to have like a plan, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't plan for what is it? You fail to
If
plan
you
for
fail to
plan
plan
to,
is a
yeah.
well, what exactly what you're talking about is what I did. I'm a failure in LA. Well, I think no, I shouldn't say that actually, but it just took me longer because everything you just said, I didn't know anything about, like spec scripts, writing packages. Did I want to write on a TV show? Yes, but I didn't know anything about the process. Did I want to do a web series? Yes. Did I at the time when we were there, commercial acting was big, all this stuff. And I should
Right.
have done, I just showed up in LA and I was like, well, I was the funniest guy in Vegas and I'm too funny for Vegas anymore. So I need to be in LA where I'm going to make it, which I couldn't have been. And I've always said LA was just like college for me, comedy college. Cause I learned about, I learned so much. And I mean, we should have just started with the basic advice that any comic that's been doing it for a while will tell you. When it's time to move to LA, LA will let you know, which is what everyone always told me. Which I shouldn't say that's sad advice because I do like what you said. If you come with a plan, but I just definitely went too early, and I went at like the 10 or 11 year mark. Honestly, I just didn't
Yeah.
know enough about the game.
Yeah, and it's like there's nothing, especially now, you really have no excuse. There's nothing stopping you from learning all this stuff before you move there. All the books, all the like, people you'd want to ask the questions, all that information is available to you now, like, because there's so many podcasts about whatever it is, how you get into acting or whatever. Taking acting, you can take acting classes in like any city, all that stuff where you're like, okay, I'm going to move to LA. Well, do you really want to start at zero when you get there, when you have no money, when rent's more expensive, and then you're going to like pay for acting classes and all this stuff? Or do you want to get there with like the ball already rolling? And I just think like so many of us in stand up, we get arrogant because what we do is really hard, right? And you get good at it, and it feeds your ego, and you think that's all you need to do is be really good at stand-up. That's what I thought. All I thought was like, oh, I'll just get better and better and better at stand-up, and then they'll just cast me in something because I'm so good at stand-up, Yeah. But the truth about LA is they don't give a shit about anything except for money, right? Like, they want to make money, and they see money, whether or not you're good at stand-up rarely translates to dollars.
Yeah.
And so
Well, that's the thing.
So much more. If you, LA is like a huge, the entertainment industry is like a huge monolith, giant beast of a business, and stand-up is its own weird little tiny corner of it. And if you want to like, if your goal is to break into everything else and conquer everything and get the EGOT and all that stuff, then it's like, you better be ready. You better get good at some other stuff.
Yeah. Well, you touched on it. That's another thing I didn't know when coming, because wherever you're from, if you're not from LA, you have bar shows. Like here in Denver, I do enough shows where I make 180, 250, sometimes a big show 500, or I could sell tickets for my own show. In LA, you'll never make any money doing stand-up comedy.
Right.
So like, for instance, like, and we have both been gone a while, but when we lived in LA, to do a spot at the store or the Improv or the Factory, it paid like $15. That's it.
Yeah, I think I got a check for $8 from the Improv one time, and that's only like they had to do it because like some union rules from like the 80s or whatever. But
yeah, I was there I think 9 years, and I guarantee the money I made in LA proper was less than $600 from stand-up shows.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. I mean,
and that's being generous.
Yeah, if you take out any sort of corporate gigs, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You can work like a little in San Diego, and you can go up to like Barstow, but those still pay shitty, and they're shitty dry. I mean, it's not a bargain. Those shows that we would do, even in San Diego is great, but that's like a 4-hour drive both ways.
Yeah, and it's just like it's supply and demand, right? So when you're in Los Angeles, there's a million great comics there you're all competing with. And so most of the spots pay shit because they can get famous people to do it for
Yeah.
free,
Yeah.
you know? So how are you going to get paid? So like a lot of clubs, you know, better clubs will pay for spots and 20-40 bucks here like that, but it's not like New York, you know, where every spot pays and you can actually do like 6 or 7 spots
Yeah.
and make a real money in one night. It's just not like that. And
So if you
the idea that you're like, oh, I'm going to make money, like I'm just going to be a stand-up living in LA. I hope no one is going into it with that impression.
yeah, because I mean, you see the store has these sold out lineups and all that, but you'll never get near that, especially now. Like we're established comics. I can maybe get on Monday Night Friends and Family, which pays nothing, calling in like huge favors. Like you can't.
Well, let's go through it. Let's actually go through it. What would it take to like be a regular at the store at this point? You'd probably spend 2 to 3 years either working the door, or like even if you're hanging out every night at the open mics and stuff, and you're the funniest one there, and you literally never miss a night, right? You would still need to break somewhere else to make traction at the store. It wouldn't just be like you're just the funniest person at the store and you're going to get moved up. Like you would have to have momentum in a bunch of other places for them to justify putting you on spots and knocking someone else off that lineup.
Yeah, at this point, if you didn't come with like a big podcast, or I don't even know to even get in. Here's a perfect story. So Ben Roy is a very good comedian. He has TV credits. He had his own show on True TV with Andrew Overdahl and Adam Caton Holland. They wrote the show. It was successful. He was, if you've ever been in the Comedy Store, outside the Comedy Store, there's a hotel right next to it, and his TV show was on the side of the hotel, maybe a 30-foot tall poster. And he went to the head of the Comedy Store, Adam, that runs it, and says, "Hey, can I just get a spot?" And he's like, "Sorry, man, I just at this time." And he's like, and I turned to my right and saw a fucking 30-foot billboard of me, and I still couldn't get a spot. I mean, there was for a while like Hannibal couldn't get in there.
Right. Yeah.
There was, I mean, that's another thing. If you have dreams of, I don't even think you can get, the Laugh Factory's always hard to get in. The store is impossible. The Improv is
the store more than any other place probably values like loyalty to itself. Like, you know, comics that do hang out there every night do have a better chance. The Improv, I feel the Improv and especially the Laugh Factory are just purely celebrity driven. Like if you're famous, like you'd have a way, if your billboard was across the street from Laugh Factory or the Improv, you'd have a way better shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put it that way. But either way, I mean, we don't need to spend too much time talking about like the individual clubs or whatever, but it's
but just real quick,
example of how competitive it is. Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing that you brought it up, because actually, if I could do it all over, when we moved out there, I would have got a job at the store.
Yeah.
I would have worked there.
It's something you could be working towards. I think the key is I actually liked the spots that I ended up getting before I left. Like I thought I did pretty well as far as a lot of the like kind of alty bar shows and stuff like that, and they were fun shows, and I was fine with the amount of club spots I was getting. I would have loved to like do more, of course, but I think where I would have, the one strategy piece I would have changed was I would have picked one club and really hammered it, like I'm going to be an Improv guy. I'm going to be a factory guy. I'm going to be a Comedy Store guy, whatever. And every night, if I don't have a spot, I'm just going to go hang out there. Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's just too many, it's too competitive. It's too hard to be everywhere. There's too many shows. Like you're going to get lost trying to like bounce around from club to club to club. And I also think the other thing the philosophy I believed in, I think it's true. It's like, the important thing is the stage time. You know, that's the thing. One, you're going to keep getting better if you get stage time. Two, you're going to get seen. But then three, it's going to keep you from going crazy. You know, if you're living down there and you go 2 months without a spot, you're going to go nuts, right?
Yeah.
So, a stage is a stage. I mean, the Comedy Store is great, great crowds, it's fun, but there's a lot of places that have shows that are less competitive, a lot of like littler clubs, and you can get up more often.
Yeah. If you're moving to LA, the store should just be like a museum, to be honest, that you just go see your heroes at in the beginning. Because I just think it's so hard to crack there if you don't get a job there. I mean, we know guys that are there's guys that are road traveled that headline B rooms that ended up taking jobs there to just try to. I mean, I wouldn't waste one. You could get on maybe a friends and family or sign up for the open mic, or you do Kill Tony. Kill Tony's your best way to like maybe get into that world. But it's just, to me,
put it this way: there's people with their names on the building who can't get spots.
yeah.
I mean, they write their names on the building, and they're like, go months without a spot. So it's just, there's a lot of comics, and everybody wants to do it. And I think the important thing is getting up more than anything.
Well, to me, there's like, I would say, I'm curious what you think about this, because the tiers are, to me, the open mics there were so bad. That weren't like I think whatever hometown you're in, like at least for me, like Denver, there's better bar open mics where you could actually would get an occasional audience. I feel like all the LA open mics I went to were just comics that were just sitting. I mean, I never really felt like I did good there. But then then there was some cool bar shows that was that second level under the clubs. And then here's another thing. We're bouncing all around, but another problem I had with the clubs, which is my own personal problem, is I didn't get much better because I was always doing what I thought was my best 5 minutes when I had a club spot, because I thought somebody important was there, which was the wrong. I wasn't growing at all. I fell in love with this set that I thought was so good, and it wasn't that good in hindsight. But instead of trying new stuff and working on stuff, everything we've talked about in other episodes, I was just doing the same stupid 5 minutes that nobody gave a shit about.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great point. And what I always say about LA is, like, everywhere else you go, you want to do, like, I remember my first spot at the Hollywood Improv, right? And I had 10 minutes, did my time, perfect, right on time, didn't run the light, did my best stuff, killed. I was like, oh, that was great. That was a great impression, whatever. Then you see people going after you. They're looking at notes. They're leaning over. They're running the light by like 6 minutes. They don't give a shit, drinking beer, doing crowd work, like it meant nothing. And they're getting, you know what I mean? That's the attitude LA wants in a weird way. You got to look like you don't give a shit to them to like keep getting booked back. It's like reverse of all. I was like a nerd who just like kept doing their time, doing what they're supposed to do. That's like that's the last thing they want. They're like, oh, that guy needs it. You know what I mean? That guy needs us. This dude, he came in late, asked to go up early, took off right after his set. He must be important, right? So it is a weird, everything's like a political mind game, alpha sort of negotiation, and you just got to know that. And if you're gonna, I guess, just to get back to our whole topic here, should you move out to LA? These are the kinds of things that like are constantly going on. Everything's harder, right? And you've got to think big picture much more often and all the time. And it's a lot of work, and it can wait.
Well, that's the perfect thing, is I spent too much time thinking about stand-up when I should have been thinking about all the other stuff that could have actually propelled my career to get me.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Like, because I go back and forth on that, because like part of me goes, I went down there, I was only focused on stand-up. Then I would start like a squirrel or something. I'd chase after, oh, I should be doing web series. Oh, I should be writing pilots. Oh, I should be writing monologue jokes. And I'd just be like kind of never really focusing on one thing. And the clarity happened for when I moved back up to Portland, and all I had really was to focus on stand-up. And I was like, oh yeah, that's the whole point. You want to just get really good at one thing. You want to master something. And I think, yes, if you're going to be in LA, it can't just be stand-up. 99 times out of 100. But if you're going to do other stuff, really focus on like pick like what's your thing? What is your passion?
Yeah.
What is your, and don't just go, oh, this week I'm going to write a movie. And then next week I'm going to,
start a podcast,
take acting classes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I think that's two things that you nailed. When you do move to LA, you should pick a club and really go for that club, and then do have your side thing. Because like me and you, I think I just want to be a comedian. You want to be, I came there if you asked me going in, I said I don't want to do any of that. I'm just a comedian. But if you live in LA, it's just not part of life. And you'll want to do other stuff to try to make money, or you'll have to have a job.
Yeah.
You better come with a lot of money because you're just,
it'll be tempting. Your roommate or somebody will book a commercial or something or do voiceover work. And you're like, God damn, they're making like real money, and you'll be like, I should get into that. You know what I mean? So it can be very like disorienting, but you do kind of have to pick something and take it seriously. Cause what you don't realize, you think, oh, I'll do voiceover work, right? I can talk.
Yeah.
I can read. How hard can that be? That guy on the radio, he's just reading, right? But you don't realize these people are putting in like years of like training, and they're getting good equipment, and they're submitting all the time. Like even that kind of stuff is competitive. And if you're going to go into it, you got to really like jump into it with both feet and know what you're getting into.
Let's kind of go over that, because I think that's interesting so here's what I'd say. When you get there, if you love comedy, you should try to get a job at one of the comedy clubs. That will definitely help your career. The Improv, the Factory, Comedy Store.
There was a school of thought that I had where I was like, that's a step backwards. I remember someone telling me, don't do the open mics at clubs because they're going to think of you as an open micer. I don't know if that's good advice. And the same thing with like working there. You have to humble yourself. If you move to LA, you are an open micer, essentially. You could be a headliner for 40 years in Cleveland, and you move to LA, as far as they're concerned, you're an open micer. So
yeah, that's great.
You have to humble
yourself for sure. And it does, but if I could do it over again, I would get a job at one of the clubs, because that'll help you get in that club and kind of pick the club. But then, so I just kind of want to go over the stuff off stage that like I didn't know about, and you've touched on some of it. So you could be like a commercial actor, you could do voiceover, you could do screenwriting. You should definitely do a podcast. I'm big on podcasts, because if you look at everybody that sells tickets, they have a podcast. You can fight it all you want, but there's no reason to fight it. Now, we'll probably talk about that in another episode, finding your niche, but writing monologue jokes. What are some other things that, and I want you to talk about your idea of being an extra and how that works too.
Yeah. So you're right. There's commercial acting. There's you could get into like improv. A lot of people do improv and try to parlay that into like
acting,
getting acting roles like in sitcoms or whatever. You can take an actual like sitcom acting class. Like they have things like specific like that. There is like extra work. Some of it's worth it. Some of it's not, like I did actual, when I first moved down there, I did actual paid audience work where you like, this is probably not worth it, but where they pay you just to sit in a studio audience and you go, oh, that sounds good. Right. But it's like $25 and a bag of Fritos.
For how long?
You're there and you don't even know. Like, I don't know. Somehow it didn't even seem legal, because sometimes it seemed like it was like $8 an hour, like below minimum wage or whatever. And you're clapping, and like it's some stupid game show that you've never heard, that hasn't ever made it on the air yet. And you're like clapping and screaming and yelling. They tell you to stand up and sit down. So it's actually more work than it sounds like. I think I had a million jobs in LA. I mean, I worked at Best Buy and I did all that audience stuff, but I honestly think I would rather like mow lawns than do some of that audience work.
Yeah.
And also I will say there's something about the thing. It'll suck working at a comedy club and not being one of the you know what I mean? Like sometimes being close to the thing that you want is more painful, and not actually having it is more painful than like cutting lawns and then working for it that night. I've been in positions where I had a job in the building or around it or, close to it, but I wasn't quite in there. I wasn't quite in where I wanted to be. And that hurts. It hurts when they see you and they don't see you as one of the comics. They see you as somebody else. And so just be prepared for that too.
Yeah. There's so many ups and downs, but the good thing is a lot of the comics that are successful now did start at Door Guys. It's like a new,
Right.
It's kind of your way up the LA ladder. But so yeah, I'm trying to think. I think we named commercial acting, voiceover, screenwriting, script writing. What else? A podcast. You should definitely try and think if there's. When we were there, the video, like the web series were bigger, but I don't think web series are really.
I think
big.
now you're better off like using your phone and trying to make funny like Instagram videos and stuff.
Just sit in your car and rant about something, and you'll get.
Honestly,
talk about conspiracies.
Value, it's weird. It moves quick, and that's the other thing I guess I would say about LA. Like for sure, move with a plan, but also be willing to adapt to, and don't be stubborn. Don't go, oh, that's just the new thing. That's some fad. I'm not gonna like. If you think it's fun and you can make something funny, then go make it.
Yeah.
And always put the onus. You always think like the attitude I had when I thought I would move there. And then I would be funny at stand up. And then someone would come up to me after a show and go, hey, that was really funny. Hey, you should be in this, or you should do that. Right. But 99% of the time, the comic is making the thing, whatever it is, the sketch or the funny bit. And then they see that and they go, hey, like for instance, I read about David Spade had a new show on Comedy Central. I don't think it's going anymore, but he had a show. It was really funny, like a late night sort of talk show,
like a Chelsea Handler kind.
Yeah. Like they would make fun of celebrities and stuff. And he, David Spade, and this was recently. He's like very, very famous, right? So you're like, oh, they must have like had this idea for a show, and so who can do it? Oh, if we could get David Spade, great. That came about from what I read by them watch somebody was like a fan of David Spade's Instagram, where he'd do like Instagram stories and make fun of people on the street. Like he just filmed people they didn't know he was filming them, and then just like do a little voice underneath, like a funny voice, like literally. So like David Spade, who's as famous as you can get in comedy, still got discovered off an Instagram story.
Well, yeah, I guess that's
you have to stay. I think you just have to find what people are looking for and just create stuff.
Yeah. If something that you like doing, pick whichever thing you like best and then create that, and you can still dabble in other stuff. But you're right. Like our old roommate, we'd always not make fun of him, but we'd be like, this dude, we'd always say he's trying to do every Olympic sport. We're like, this guy's trying to go to the Olympics and win every medal and everything.
Right.
And
like you don't want to be
on one thing.
You don't want to be
one gold medal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I say no one's ever won 50 gold medals. You just to get a gold medal is a great achievement. Just focus and just like an Olympic athlete, work your ass off on that thing and then get the gold instead of try to get the gold in every sport, because it's impossible.
So I guess what I would, I totally agree. So I guess what I would say, if you're thinking of moving to LA, here's the big things, right? Know it's going to be hard, especially at first.
Save all your money.
Save all your money.
Get as much money.
Save up some money. Save up some money. And don't live off the money when you get there. Like try to become self-sustaining right as quickly as possible, because at some point you're going to need that money. But third, imagine you do this show in LA, whatever hot show, and you get called by somebody big at a management company or something, and they want to have a meeting with you. Imagine what you would pitch them in that meeting, right? And if all you can come up with is that you're really funny and you want to do stand-up and you want to be on the road, I wouldn't say you're ready to move to LA yet. But if you can pitch them one really, really great idea or a couple really good ideas, and you already have a podcast and you already have a web series, or you've been writing, packets and you already have scripts, then you might be ready.
Yeah. Which you can do all that. Like, in my defense, first of all, I was just lazy, but back then
we both are. We're both pretty lazy.
Yeah.
It's
but
amazing we're doing this.
But if you want to write on a TV show, like there's a couple guys here in Denver that they'll make one sketch and then they'll just post, hey, someone hire me for a TV show, and I'm just like, It doesn't work like that. You need fucking packets. You need to be. So if you want to write for a TV show, you should study about how to write a spec script or that. If you want to write movies, then you should, there's screenwriting classes for that. If you don't have a podcast, you should have a podcast. If you don't have a YouTube channel, you should be creating some kind of content on YouTube. If you think you have a great voice for voiceover, study all that shit. If you think you could be a commercial actor, if you're good looking, get your headshots right, get ready. Like, you don't have any excuse to not be prepared when you get to LA, and just the stand up is so useless in LA.
Yeah, and I just, that's the best advice I can give is just picture it all going great, and you're sitting down across the table from Mr. Show Business. What do you got for him? And if you don't have something that you think they would jump all over, then I would say wait and just keep getting better at stand up. But once you have that thing, then go. Yeah, that would be my ultimate advice.
I think that's great advice. Because there's nothing more true than that, because there is so many great comics, and you're going to get that chance, and you might as well be prepared if you are a good comic, you are going to get that meeting. And like we've talked about it here on before, when I had that meeting, I was not ready. I sat across from them and they said, what do you got? And I said, I do stand up, and here's a funny story. And they're like, but put that story in a script. Put even all the good shit I had, I didn't have it presentable. I just had ideas, and they don't want ideas. They want finished ideas that they can make money off of.
My first big meeting, and I was so excited. I went in there, we talked about fantasy football, and I left. Like, it was just totally pointless. I wasted the street parking meter that I had to pay.
Yeah.
in Beverly Hills. Like, I didn't know, I thought it went good too. I was like, oh, well, he's a nice guy, maybe he'll want to, he's just being nice, because he could tell I had nothing to pitch him. And then you read these stories about other people come in with like mountains of scripts and stuff. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I assume he knew the second you walked in how ready you were. Hey, what's up? And you said, I don't know, Seahawks play. And he goes, oh, okay, this guy's not ready for me. Where if you walked in and he said, what's up? You said, this is what's up. I think we should jump on this, because I think it's like a fucking salesman. I got the opportunity of a lifetime for you right now. You need to sign me, because what I have is incredible. And I guarantee he knew both our meetings. They knew, because someone vouches for you, says he's really funny, and it's a free shot for them. Because 9 times out of 10, guys like us, they can just go, okay, take your free water, I'm going to lunch. But occasionally someone does, bring in an idea that is life-changing for them and everybody else.
Yeah.
So
I would just
not to shit on LA too much. I'll tell you what, the weather's incredible. You'll instantly get in better shape. No matter how much it just becomes part of your lifestyle. You'll eat better. You hike more. You drink less. The weather's great. The most beautiful people in the world. You'll get to see all your heroes. I mean, we could tell you countless stories of times. I mean, just off the top of my head, I'll tell you a time when we were just sitting in the Comedy Store. Kevin Hart or Chappelle's on stage. Kevin Hart's sitting directly in front of him, like in the front booth. Cat Williams is on the side, and there's all these celebrities in there. And Chappelle's just talking to Kevin Hart and Cat Williams and people, and like T.I.'s there. And you just see shit. You're like, oh my God. Or you'll do a little bar show and Bill Burr will walk in, a show that there might be 12 people, and Bill Burr will just come in, and you'll get to see incredible shit that you've never even dreamed of. So it's not
that's all true. And piggybacking off of that, there'll be Bill Burr, and there'll be even like less famous comics than Bill Burr, but still people who are amazing at stand up. And it's a good measuring stick. Like, if you really want to know how good you are, like, it is good. You'll find out, you'll know exactly how good you are, because you'll never be the funniest one. You'll hardly ever be the funniest one in the room.
Even if you do get those club spots, you are going to have to follow people. And here's another thing that sucks that you don't know when you move to LA. So every club in LA, when you walk in, they have the set posted on the thing. So the audience members go, okay, 4's David Spade, 5's Brant Tobler, 6 is Theo Vaughn. And the audience is like, okay, I know when I'm going to the bathroom, whoever that fucking Brant Tobler is. It's like, that would drive me crazy. I'd walk in and be like, okay, I got a set. And I'd be like, okay, I'm following Harlan Williams or just some crusher, and I'd be like, all right, I'm a good bathroom break for all these people.
Yeah, you never want to be like right before the mystery guest, you
Yeah,
know.
because it'll be a mystery
Or
why
right
you moved to
after.
LA. You'll
Yeah.
be like, this is the mystery. Why am I in LA? I could be back in my hometown getting paid $200 and free drinks, and everyone thought I was so good. Now I'm about to eat it and take
But
up spots.
yeah, I do think ultimately, right, like LA or New York, everyone kind of envisions that's like the end of the road. Like that's where you want to end up, at least at some point. And that's probably true still. Like I think it is changing with technology and everything. But I would say just like, you know, there is not a rush. No one's going to care if you've been doing it 10 years in your hometown or 5 years. As far as they're concerned, you're day one new once you ended up in one of those big cities. Like that's all that matters to them. So if you're like, oh, I've already been here for 4 years and I'm, you know, I don't want to move to LA too late. Like I wouldn't put too much thought into that. Just go when you're ready.
Yeah, what I would
And
do,
and you just know what you'd say in that meeting. That's just I keep coming back to it, but that's probably
that's perfect advice. I mean, it
yeah.
can't get more simple. You're sitting across from somebody. What do you got? If you
Right.
don't got it, then don't go to LA.
Yeah.
Now, if you're getting like a little cabin fever in your hometown, what I would do is spend like money you think you would use in LA, spend that to go to festivals, or sometimes just go to festivals. Let's say before we knew each other, you're in Seattle, I'm in Vegas. I meet you at a festival in Montana. Then at some point I go, hey, I'm gonna come up to Seattle and hang out, and you should come down. And then you go up to another scene, you do shows, you meet people in that scene. Because then later in life, which we'll get to, you're going to want to tour. So you're better off, I was better off when I left Vegas. I went down to Phoenix for a while, and then I met you guys from Seattle. And then when I did want to tour, I knew people all over where I could actually leave LA and tour a little to make money to come back and pay my LA rent. So I get that if you make it to the top of your town or city and you think it's time to go, maybe instead of go all the way to the top floor, maybe go to, let's say if you're in Omaha, Nebraska, then maybe you come to Denver, and then there's always a step that you can get to where you can,
you don't have to go right from where you live to LA or New York, you can take intermediate steps. And I think that helps. I went to Boston before, I went Seattle, Boston, LA. And I think that I learned a lot in Boston about how to break into a scene and how to write, how to tighten things up. And so that was good for me, and I met a lot of comics there who are still some of my best friends in comedy. So I'm definitely favor that.
So if you get restless, move somewhere for a month, go decide every 2 months you're going to go to another town for a weekend and do shows, or just don't be in too big a rush. Cause I think LA is getting less and less. This pandemic didn't help LA at all because people are realizing you can create and sell stuff without I wish LA would just go away stand up wise, because really you're going to find out you think you need a manager and agent when you end up going to be doing most of the shit yourself. And it's just cool to say you have them, but I would, or you can always just visit LA. You don't have to live there. There's no reason. I wish that's another thing. You could go to LA quarterly, fly into town. Everyone could. People still think I live in LA. I've been gone for 3 years. LA is so fucking weird that you don't even have to live there. You can come in and then and just have some fun, connect, and live LA for a little bit, and then go back to your hometown and keep working till you're ready for that meeting.
That's a great point. Like you definitely, I know a lot of comics who will go and like they don't tell anybody they left, or they don't tell anybody they like moved away, or that they never moved to LA, but they'll say, oh, I'm in town for 2 or 3 weeks. People assume they live in New York people maybe assume they live in LA, whatever. Like, oh, I'm in town, and they get all the good shows in that 2 to 3 week period that it would take you, over 6 months if you live there. They go, oh, you live here, you can do it, we can get to you later,
Yeah. So I don't know. In conclusion, there's a lot of good. I think we shit on LA a lot. It's an incredible place, and I hope you guys all end up there someday, because it is, for me, it was such a learning experience, and I just learned so much about the industry that I didn't know starting out, but just bring as much money as you can would be my main thing, because you're going to need it.
Bring money and ideas.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Bring all the money you got and all the closest to finished ideas if you had. And then it's going to take a little luck, but that's anything. So,
yeah.
But
all right, man.
All right. We'll see you guys in LA one day, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, we did our time, so we don't have to go back.
We'll crash on your couch.
Yeah, we'll come sleep on your couch.
If you move to LA, don't tell anybody you have a couch.
Yeah.
You will have people on it.
And don't move to LA with a truck. Get like a Prius, because people want you to move shit all the time. It's the worst thing you can do. So get a Prius, save your money, and no couch. Just folding chairs in your living room. Because, we might as well touch on this just so you know how rough LA is. So I moved in with Andrew, and we had to build a sheet wall with like sheets in our living room for our third roommate so we could survive LA.
And we still had somebody crashing all the time in the regular living room. So the sheet room was for our real roommate, and then we still would always have some comic living on the floor. Yeah.
Shit, we had some of the best comics in the world stay on that couch.
Yeah.
Before they became famous. But yeah, so just so you know how hard LA is, we'd have to, sometime when the landlord would come, we'd have to tear the sheets down because that was like another room, and they'd want to charge us way more money, which was like, it's just, you're going to be in for it's just save all your money.
It's just good advice in general.
And get your ideas, if you're going to be a comedian, no matter where you live, get as much money as you can. But all right, that's it for this week. Hopefully we answered some questions. Good luck wherever you're at and wherever you end up moving. We will do shows with you somewhere along the road. If you have any questions for us, feel free to reach out through social media or in the comments. Like we said, please rate, review, subscribe. We do this shit for free. We're not spending any money. We're just doing it because we love it. So we're not doing sponsored ads or anything. The only way this thing grows is by word of mouth. So please tell your comedy friends, because I'm sure you're surrounded by comics that could use some of these notes. So that's it for this week. We are out of here. I am Brant Tobler.
I'm Andrew Slater.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.